Hi guys, it's F1 fan number 1 here, and what a Friday it's been in Australia. We've had FP1 and FP2 in the first races of the sessions of the 2026 season, and let's get into the standings, shall we? Now, I know you can only see the top 3 of FP1 on your screen, you'll see the top 3 of FP2 later. I do apologise it's only the top 3, but I'm going to be reading out the entire standings for both of them. Right, in FP1 then. At the back in 22nd was Fernando Alonso. He didn't set a single lap in the Aston Martin. In 21st was Lance Stroll, also in the Aston Martin, who only completed 3 laps, was 30 seconds off the pace. In 20th was in the Cadillac Sergio Perez, who completed 14 laps and was 4 seconds off the pace. And then 19th was the reigning world champion Lando Norris in McLaren, 4 seconds off the pace, only completing 7 laps. And the reason for that is that he had an engine failure, so you can't get too disheartened that he finished so low down. Anyway, and then in 18th was one of the Alpines. I bet you can't guess which one it was. It was Pierre Gasly, who was also 4 seconds off the pace, completing 27 laps. In 17th was the other Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas, also 4 seconds off the pace, completing 24 laps. In 16th was the other Alpine of Franco Colapinto, 3 seconds off the pace, completing 26 laps. In 15th was Alex Albon, the Williams, who was 3 seconds off the pace as well, 24 laps completed for him. In 14th was Oliver Bearman in the Haas, 2.5 seconds off the pace, 25 laps completed. In 13th was Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls, 2.5 seconds off as well, completing 28 laps. In 12th was the other Williams, Carlos Sainz, who was 2 seconds off the pace, 30 laps completed for him. In 11th was the Haas of Esteban Ocon, 2 seconds off the pace, 28 laps completed. In 10th was the Audi of Nico Hülkenberg, who was 1.7 seconds off the pace, completing 21 laps. In 9th was the other Audi of Gabriel Bortoleto, 1.5 seconds off the pace, completing 23 laps. In 8th was the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, who was a second off the pace, 24 laps completed for him. And in 7th was the other Mercedes of George Russell, 1 second off the pace as well, 26 laps completed. So the Mercedes a bit lower down than many people expected. In 6th was the McLaren of Oscar Piastri, 1 second off the pace, 21 laps completed for him. And in 5th, this is going to surprise a lot of you, Arvid Lindblad in the Racing Bulls, the only rookie, finished 5th, second off the pace, 22 laps completed. In 4th was the Red Bull driver of Isaac Kadjar, 8 tenths off the pace, 24 laps completed. In 3rd was the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, half a second off the pace, 27 laps completed, which means, of course, it was a Ferrari one too, with the Brit Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champ, in second, half a second off the pace, completing 30 laps, and completing 33 laps, setting a lap time of 1:20.267, was the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. The Ferrari hopium is real. And then we got into practice 2, which saw at the bottom Sergio Perez, who didn't set a lap time, completed 2 laps. Then 21st, it was the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, who completed 13 laps. It's an improvement. 6 seconds off the pace, also an improvement. And in 20th was the old man Fernando Alonso, who was 5 seconds off the pace, but completed 18 laps. And I think that's a positive for Aston, that they actually managed to complete 31 laps combined. That's good for them. Then in 19th was the Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas, who was 4 seconds off the pace as well, completing 28 laps. In 18th was Franco Colapinto in the Alpine, 3 seconds off the pace, completing 27 laps. In 17th was the Williams of Carlos Sainz, 2.5 seconds off the pace, completing 10 laps. 16th was the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, also 2.5 seconds off the pace, completing 16 laps. In 15th was Alexander Albon and the Williams, 2 seconds off the pace, 32 laps completed for him. In 14th was the Audi of Gabriel Bortoleto, he was also 2 seconds off the pace, completing 28 laps. In 13th was Liam Lawson and the Racing Bulls, 1.5 seconds off the pace, completing 29 laps. In 12th was the Audi of Nico Hülkenberg, 1.5 seconds off the pace, completing 34 laps. And then in 10th and 11th were the 2 Hasses, with Bearman in 11th, Ocon in 10th, both 1.5 seconds off the pace, Ocon completing 29 laps, Bearman completing 31. Hadjar in the Red Bull was in 9th, a second off the pace, completing 28 laps. In 8th was the rookie Arvid Lindblad in the Racing Bull, 1 second off the pace, completing 29 laps. In 7th was the reigning world champion Lando Norris in the McLaren, a second off the pace, 29 laps completed. In 6th was the other Red Bull of Max Verstappen, 6 tenths off the pace, 13 laps completed. And then the Ferrari hopium died down just a tad, with Charles Leclerc in 5th, half second off the pace, completing 30 laps, and Lewis Hamilton in 4th, 3 tenths off the pace, completing 32 laps. George Russell in the Mercedes was in third, 3/10 off the pace, completing 28 laps. Second was the Italian Kimi Antonelli, 2/10 off the pace, 31 laps completed, and then completing 26 laps, setting a lap time of 1:19.729, was the home hero in the McLaren, Oscar Piastri. There you have it then, the FP1 and FP2 winners, Charles Leclerc in FP1 and Oscar Piastri in FP2. I'll be back tomorrow for reaction to FP3 and qualifying. First qualifying of the new season and of the new regulations. Hope you enjoyed that one. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.